President-elect Donald Trump hasn't even taken office yet, but he claims the country can already see and feel what some of his aides have called the Trump effect on the economy. There was this tweet Monday: "The world was gloomy before I won. There was no hope. Now the market is up nearly 10% and Christmas spending is over $1 trillion." And then this on Tuesday: the U.S. Consumer Confidence Index for December surged nearly 4 points to 113.7, the highest level in more than 15 years. Thanks, Donald. On Wednesday, the president-elect announced he was personally responsible for bringing 5,000 jobs back to the U.S.
I was just called by the head people at Sprint, and they're going to be bringing 5,000 jobs back to the United States. They're taking them from other countries. They're bringing them back to the United States. And also OneWeb, a new company, is going to be hiring 3,000 people. So that's very exciting.
So, Karen, if you look beneath the headlines and beneath what he's saying there in that press conference, this was a deal that was made in October. It really doesn't have anything to do with Trump.
He had already announced, he'd already taken, it was basically based on a Japanese bank's financing that he had already taken credit for once. He was double counting.
But it seems to be good for the companies to get these kinds of headlines, and certainly good for Donald Trump, even if it's not quite true.
And what it really speaks to is he's promised change, he's promised progress, and he's going to be under a lot of pressure to produce it in very tangible ways. It's going to be his effort, and I think we're going to see this every day, him getting up and, you know, sort of pointing to something tangible,
right,
however small, however, you know, tangential to whatever he is doing, and just to sort of give people the sense that things are changing, that they are moving, in a way that these big, broad economic statistics, as Barack Obama learned the hard way, don't
really tell the story. And Obama was never very good at selling. Even when there was relatively good economic news, he would sort of say, there's still more work to be done.
I mean, this approach makes a lot of sense from a brand marketing standpoint. I mean, you know, like we're talking about when Barack Obama took office, you know, they pointed to a lot of economic statistics to say how things have improved or changed. People don't really feel or get that. They understand Carrier because they might have a heating or air conditioning unit, or they understand, you know, a bank name because they, you know, might be there or not. So that's what Trump is trying to do. But I think it's incumbent on us to look below the surface, make sure that those things, as they add up, whether or not they go to real statistics and do wind up going to make real improvements. I think it's important to have a set of benchmarks from 2009 when Barack Obama took office to 2017 when Donald Trump takes office, and maintain some consistency for comparative sake.
And what kind of benchmarks, Jackie, for Trump should we be looking at? He hasn't come in necessarily promising a certain number of jobs. He's only said that he'd be the best job creator that God ever created, I think was what he said. He's talked about growth as well, promising maybe as high as 6% growth. I mean, what are the metrics here?
I mean, I think checking the facts carefully is going to be very important. You mentioned Carrier. He was inflating the numbers at Carrier, and that's because, and we know that because spoke to a worker who said, well, that's not the number that's actually coming. So that is going to be critical. But in terms of benchmarks, I mean, he's talked a lot about manufacturing. Is manufacturing coming back? He's talked a lot about infrastructure, and he's going to need Congress's help with that.
Bringing the coal industry back as well.
Yeah, bringing the coal industry back, exactly. You can look at the industries that he spotlighted, which, I mean, a lot of this is gone because of globalization.
Right.
But again, what we've been wrong in the past. Maybe he can do it.
And by the way, a lot more beyond globalization, which he has spent a lot of time blaming that in trade. The real reason that the majority of manufacturing jobs that have been lost to automation.
Yes. Right.
That's why productivity has actually gone up, even though there
which is difficult to reverse, of course.
And also but also some of the trade policies that he's talked about could actually hurt some of his goals. Things like auto parts, they're not manufactured in the United States. American cars are put together here, but the parts come from somewhere else. So he could be shooting himself in the foot with some of these other policies that he's talking about implementing. So he's going to have to find a balance.
One of the things he is talking about, and he Instagrammed this on Thursday, kind of a slogan, I guess. He said, "My administration will follow two simple rules: buy American and hire American." Matt, what do we think that actually looks like in terms of a policy? Is it about, he only has American products in the White House or in these different agencies, American TVs, whatever it is?
He won't have Ivanka Trump's products in the White House in that case.
Or his own ties.
His own things are
Yeah.
made overseas. So he is, as a businessman, made decisions, and his daughter, whose businesses are successful by some standards, have relied on overseas manufacturing, overseas labor to make those products. So I think, he's talked about Apple, for example. Apple has huge manufacturing facilities in China, and does he penalize Apple somehow and force them to, levy some tariffs or
Yeah,
something
and
like
Some
that?
of his businesses, I believe it was his vineyards, that filed for permits to bring foreign workers here.
And hire American, buy American, both sound like great slogans, but how does he deliver on that? I mean, I think that's what we're talking about. And that, I think, is something that you have to, hold him to account for. How do you bring those jobs back that you're suddenly promising? And how do you get people to then hire folks?
Right.
And is it non-union labor, for example? I mean, that's one thing that Democrats have been worried about when you watch the increase in car manufacturing, for example, in a place like Alabama.
Right, and one of the things we're also waiting for him to talk about is his businesses, how he's going to extricate himself from those businesses and be more transparent. Here's what he had to say.
It's not a big deal. You people are making that a big deal, the business, because, hey, look, number one, when I won, they all knew I had a big business all over the place. In fact, I reported it with the federal elections. It's a much bigger business than anybody thought. It's a great business, but I'm going to have nothing to do with it. I don't have to, because as you know, I wouldn't have to do that by law, but I want to do that because I want to focus on the country.